Harley Quinn, Season 5, Episode 7, titled Frankette. We have the birth of Frank's offspring, we have some child rearing up in some Dutch immersion school, and we have some evil plan stealing from the one and only Lena. All that more after this. All right, guys, Brent here back with Geek Variants. Cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, Harley Quinn. I gotta say, this episode was actually fairly solid. This was probably the best episode of the season thus far. And sure, it started off rather slow and rather in a more annoying way than it traditionally does. But by the end, everything panned out, and it actually had solid payoff as far as the plot was concerned. So I was pretty happy with today's episode as far as this was concerned. This episode really kind of showed that there is some layers of depth that they're slowly trying to build here. Is just taking some time, or in other words, I could just be sold off on this episode because this was Bane's breakout episode of the season. And again, any episode with Bane in it or any series with Bane, I'm usually a little bit more partial to. But at the same time, let's get into the meat and potatoes, like what actually transpired in this episode. During this episode, we are starting off with Frank's funeral. Our favorite houseplant who cussed, smoked, and got on with other plants, photosynthesized, I guess. I don't know. Cross pollinated, maybe would be more of the politically correct term. His way to many female plants' hearts, as well as the hearts of us as the viewers, where he was endearing himself while he was running his massage areas, his spas, his other interesting businesses, and giving sage advice in the weirdest way possible pertaining to just life in general. And during his funeral, he starts auctioning off certain things, and he starts saying exactly what everyone else is thinking. He literally planned his death so eloquently, or like what would transpire through his death, that he was able to use his own funeral to create life. In essence, he used a rag of his seed, if you will, which, when mixed with Poison Ivy's lipstick, which Poison Ivy is his mom, I remind you, when thrown upon his, tomb, added with some champagne, let it sit for about 3 hours, and boom, we have created life. Frankette was born from the mom and the son to create the kids. So it's like this is a whole Game of Thrones esque situation going on here. I don't want to really think too much about how it panned out. We just know that somehow life was created. And as this life is created, Poison Ivy is entirely against it. She is completely disassociating with Frankette because she feels like if she gets attached to Frankette the same way she got attached to Frank, she's only going to be setting herself up for heartbreak again. And in her defense, she's been kind of through a lot this season, so it's kind of been an ongoing issue. As this happens once more, Sean the Shark continues to make more annoying appearances because he has literally nothing to provide for the show. Cannot stand him. He's very annoying. It doesn't even get any better in this episode, even though he actually helps at some points, which is rather shocking, all things considered. So if we could, have all things in doubt, once again, he literally annoys Lena to the point that eventually she just turns, looks at him, and is like, "Hey, Santa's not real," and just keeps going on past him. So that was a little bit of fantastic wordplay to go ahead and put Sean in his place temporarily. But we kind of end up with the fact that Poison Ivy is on a rampage, and Lena has blamed Brainiac for everything that has transpired. Believing this, Poison Ivy sets out to go on an absolute mission, but you can't just leave when you got two kids stuck at your apartment. Not really good rearing, and Sean would probably try and eat Frankette, so let's not go ahead and do that. So they turn to the most reliable babysitter in all of Metropolis. The best babysitter in Metropolis, Bane. He has stepped up in spades for Goldie and is packing her lunches. He's setting up cookies around the house. He's got his own apron. And his apron, which of course I thought was amazing. The only hood I'm from is fatherhood. So it's like, if that's not Bane, I don't know really what is at this moment in time. He has stepped into his role and gladly accepted who and what he is for all intents and purposes. So he goes ahead and was going to actually take care of him, but he got a note from the Dutch immersion school that Goldie has got detention for 2 weeks because she has an interrupting problem. We could have told you that during Kite Man, but I guess now's the time to go ahead and figure that out. Lena sets up Ivy and Harley to go up to Brainiac's ship and go have a conversation. Brainiac is stuck in depression. This man is down bad. And he's out here watching Clayface's play as if it's something that's worth watching in order to cure his depression, which lo and behold, it doesn't. And the fact that Poison Ivy and Harley show up and start threatening him, he's like, you know what? Why wait? I was going to bottle the city when I wanted to, but I don't really want to anymore. I'm going to just start like eliminating, Metropolis. I'm going to start, taking it piece by piece and just boop, boom, building disintegrated. Keep on moving on all the way throughout, which sets everything down a dangerous path as Harley and Ivy aren't able to figure out what's going on. Ivy eventually gets sent back and she has a moment with Frank, who is coming through her through the green to tell her, hey, you need to save Frankette. And then they actually have the talk that, hey, even though you're my mom, we had your kid together, so things are confusing. But for all intents and purposes, Frankette needs to be saved, and Ivy needs to go ahead and step up and like actually mom in this moment in time. And she actually agrees and is coming around as she now has some semblance of closure with Frank. So we're just kind of moving on as best we can. Then we have probably the best sequence of events throughout the entirety of the episode. As they're about to wipe out the school where Frankette, Sean, Bane, and Goldilocks are, Bane decides he is never going to die to AI. For some reason, Bane has beef with AI. I don't know what it is, but it's his mission in life to destroy it. He decides to juice himself up, and he goes ahead and starts handling business as quickly and efficiently as he possibly can. He starts throwing desks, he starts throwing chairs, and he starts eliminating robot after robot after robot up until the robots decide to just do some Terminator type stuff, fuse all themselves together, and create a bigger robot. And then everyone has to kind of team up. And Frankette, seeing that Ivy is now here for her, unleashes her very first vine and starts doing some serious damage on this. But ultimately, the collective powers of the group are no match for a robot army of Brainiacs, because obviously, why would Bane, a musclehead, and Sean the shark, and Frankette the plant, along with Poison Ivy, the plant master, be able to take out Brainiac's army? It just wasn't going to be in the cards for him. Once again, Lena shows up on the ship of Brainiacs and says, look, I can stop this. You have to give me whatever I want, or I'm not going to do it. Harley, of course, agrees because she doesn't want to think things through. She thinks, I got to save my lover first, think later. Lena, of course, agrees because she's got exactly what she wanted. So then ultimately we have Lena save the city, but at what cost? That cost is later to be determined as everyone, Frankette, Harley, and Poison Ivy are kind of hanging out and they're just having a good family moment. Two moms and a plant. What else can you root for? And then ultimately, Lena decides to take Frankette, which causes Ivy to snap on Harley and be like, everything is your fault. I can't believe you let this happen. And she's just emotionally lashing out because she's been through a lot this season. She had to deal with a hateful ex. She had Frank's death. She just became a mom again. And now her child was ripped away from her. So she is just grieving and is just lashing out at anyone who's nearby. Unfortunately, that turns out to be Harley. And Lena is up there on the ship, now getting herself injected with all the like tentacle like insertions that Brainiac usually puts in his head. She's now put inside her head, and she has full control of the ship and a tiny version of Brainiac who was shrunk during Harley's shenanigans. So things are out of control in Metropolis, and we end the episode with her staring down Superman's Fortress of Solitude. What that will become, we can only speculate on. What we shouldn't speculate on is you hitting that lovely subscribe button. It's in the red subscription box below. It's entirely free. Helps you find our content easier. And if you hit that like button as well, it recommends other types of reviews and feeds, such as this one. I've been Brent for Geek Variants. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Dragon Ball Daima. Have a good one.